Alcantar, and I decided to do cognitive psychology for my presentation. Some of the things that you can expect in my slideshows is a definition of cognitive psychology, the 3 pillars of cognitive, and practical real-world impacts, historical context, and more about cognitive dissonance. So what is cognitive psychology? It's essentially a major branch of psychology dedicated to the scientific study of internal mental processes, which usually refers to anything related to the mental process of thinking, knowing, remembering, judging, and problem solving. So I have a picture to the right that kind of illustrates how, in a way, the mind works, and hopefully it gives a better picture of how physically in our heads that's what cognitive psychology would work. By focusing on these internal, often unobservable mental events, cognitive psychology provides a crucial framework for understanding the mechanisms underlying human behavior and experience. And that's one thing I liked about this subject. Cognitive psychology was very interesting to me, because I presume that a couple years back, or many years back, many people didn't think that there would ever be a underlying human behavior and experience, like any mechanisms or any framework that would help us understand how exactly the mind works. So the 3 pillars of cognitive. The first one I decided to do on attention specifically. The ability to selectively focus relevant information, selective, sustained, and divided attention. For the second one, I decided to do perception, which is organizing, interpreting sensory input to understand the environment. And lastly, memory. I think memory is a really good one. The system of encoding, such as creating or storing, kind of like retaining and retrieving information, such as like recalling. I would say, in a way, it kind of reminds me of like deja vu moments. Practical real world impact. So for education, I have developing effective teaching methods, spaced repetition, retrieval practice that align with how memory and learning optimally function. So here we have the shift between 1950s and the 1960s. I decided to do some of the foundational figures, such as George Miller. In 1956, he defined the limits of working memory, which would be the magical number 7 plus or minus 2. I also decided to add, excuse me if I butcher his name, Ulrich Neisser in 1967. He published Cognitive Psychology and basically formally naming the field and unifying the disparate research areas. Going back to the 1950s dominance, behaviorism. Back then, psychology focused only on the observable behavior, viewing the mind as a black box that could not be scientifically studied. I think I have in the next slide, I have a picture specifically on behaviorism, how it would compare to cognitive psychology. So So let's go ahead and look at that to see the difference of the two. Okay, yeah. So more of the historical context. Cognitive psychology emerged as a major field in the 1950s and 1960s, but it basically shifted its focus away from the strict behaviorism, which largely ignited internal mental states. So if you see here, I decided to do a picture which would kind of compare the two. So on the left side, we have behaviorism, which is very old-fashioned and outdated, and on the right side we have more ideas, more topics on cognitive psychology, more open to different ideas about it as well. I think I really like this picture because it just shows and kind of compares, and it puts it into perspective as well. And for my last slide, I have more on the cognitive dissonance. I think I decided to add this on because it's kind of in the family tree. I decided to also write about this because I think we had a discussion about it, which made me get interested on the cognitive psychology. As an example of what cognitive dissonance is, a behavior that I noticed that went along with cognitive dissonance was when I decided to put off homework, and I really do struggle with this. I've been doing this more recently where I think I have enough time to do it later when I know I'm procrastinating. Mainly because I always do feel like I have more time than in reality I don't. I just essentially just put everything above homework, thinking that I have time, which I really don't. Even though I've tried juggling everything and it's just not been working, so maybe I need to change everything. But I think the main thing is that I justify my procrastination by telling myself I've had a long day at work and I could just do it another day. One of the things that I learned about cognitive dissonance is that it kind of goes against our beliefs, and it allows us to justify ourselves the often change the behavior so it can match our beliefs. So in the first box, in the blue box, I have mental discomfort experience when individual holds two or more conflicting cognitions. And that in my case would be doing homework or getting extra rest. In the middle box, I have the entire phenomenon is driven by the process of thought and knowledge representation. In the last box, I have cognitive dissonance is a theory about how the mind processes and resolves inconsistency in its stored information, making it direct application and a historically significant part of the study in cognition. So that's why I decided to also add in cognitive dissonance, because it kind of goes pair to pair with cognitive psychology. And that is essentially it. That would be my slides. I hope you guys enjoyed, and yeah, thank you so much for taking your time out of your day.